Well, good morning. It's good to be with you today on this Monday of Holy Week. We will take some time each day to talk through some of the things that happened to Jesus and that Jesus did during Holy Week. Today on Holy Monday, Monday and Tuesday don't really have titles. They're Holy Monday, Holy Tuesday. Wednesday is sometimes called Spy Wednesday. We'll talk about that when we get there. Of course, Monday, Thursday, and Good Friday. We'll talk more about that. Even Holy Saturday. We'll probably do a Holy Saturday reflection as well. And then, of course, Easter Sunday. So it's going to be a great week here at St. Matthew's. I hope whatever church you're part of is having a lot of spaces for you to ponder and to reflect and to think. We've got a lot going on here at church. Stations of the Cross are up and going. Services Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, some service opportunities, Saturday, of course, Easter celebration. So a lot going on. Let's look at what happened in Jesus' life on Holy Monday. Holy Monday pretty much takes place. The main two events, really, you can find Holy Monday. And we're looking at Matthew today, um, 12, 21, chapter 21, 12 through 8 through 22. Two major movements, the cleansing of the temple and then the cursing of the fig tree. So let's look a little bit at each one of these two things today. We'll focus primarily on the cleansing of the temple, but there's a lot of important stuff with the fig tree as well. So let's read 12. This is chapter 21, verse 12. Then Jesus entered the temple and drove out all who were selling and buying in the temple. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the seats of those who sold doves. And he said to them, "It is written, My house shall be called a house of prayer, but you are making it a den of robbers." The blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he cured them. But when the chief priests and the scribes saw the amazing things he did, and heard the children crying in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they became angry and said to him, "Do you hear what they are saying?" Jesus said, "Yes. Have you never read? Out of the mouths of infants and nursing babes, you have prepared praise for yourself." He left the city to Bethany and spent the night there. I'm sorry, it really just is verses verses 12 through 17. So this is the tomorrow's the fig tree. I was getting ahead of myself. So Jesus cleanses the temple today, and this is an interesting and often misunderstood passage. Flips the tables, makes the whip. And I always think of something Phil Vischer says in his podcast, The Holy Post, one of the episodes I was listening to, talked about how we see a lot of examples of who Jesus is in Scripture. And so often we want to run to the table flipping Jesus. Um, and if we're going to be honest, most of us are not spiritually mature enough to be table flipping Jesus. When we often take on the concept of ourselves of we're the one who's going to be the hammer of justice, we're the one who's going to be the one who's going to make all things right, we're the ones who are going to do these things. We need to be very careful there because we aren't as spiritually mature, obviously, as Jesus. Most of us don't have the spiritual depth, myself included. Let me be clear. I think that's why I'm afraid often of the role of prophet because the prophetic element can be a dangerous thing if not used with grace. So if our first impulse is to always flip over tables, if our first impulse is to always to make a whip, to whip things, we probably need to take a second and check ourselves and see where we are spiritually because we're not Jesus and we don't have the spiritual depth of Jesus to restrain our passions, shall we say. Um, so let's unpack what is significant, though, about the cleansing of the temple. So what's happening here is this. When you go back and read the Old Testament, go back and read the law, there are a lot of reasons that people were called to bring sacrifices to the temple, all manner of offerings, all manner of things, particularly for Jesus on the end on the edge of the Passover. Passover is fixing to happen, the eve of the Passover. So a lot of people are in Jerusalem. This is the busy season. This is like for us in the church. It's Holy Week. It's a busy week in the temple. So what would happen is you'd come up to the temple from wherever you were, Jericho, Beersheba, wherever. You'd come to the temple, and most people weren't able to bring their own animal for the sacrifice. This is not like in the days of the wilderness and of the Exodus. People would not be able to bring these things with them, so they would need to purchase the animal for the sacrifice whenever they got to the temple or to Jerusalem. So they would come to the temple, to the courtyard, and they would need to purchase their animal for sacrifice. Well, so they would come with their Roman money. And Roman money has on it a picture of Caesar. Remember, Jesus asked them whose picture's on the coin, give to Caesar that which is Caesar's, give to God that which is God's. So the Roman money would have on it a picture of Caesar. And in that culture, people believed that Caesar was a god. The Romans believed that Caesar was a god. So the temple was not going to take pagan money for the purchase of animals. So you had to basics like when you go to a foreign country now, you have to exchange, you have to get your money changed over. You have to, go through and get whatever uh, money you're going to use. You had to change over your Roman money for temple money, denarii for shekels. So you would take that Roman money, change it over the money changers, and get your shekels, your temple money. You would then use that money to purchase your animal. But every level of the system was robbing the poor. So your exchange rate, well, they took off the top. Then you would take your shekels and you would purchase your animals, and they were overpriced and they were usually of very poor quality. Go back and read the Levitical laws. You're supposed to unblemished lambs, unblemished rams. You were supposed to bring unblemished animals. Well, these weren't that. So you were being charged, you were having money taken from you in the exchange. You were being overcharged for sacrificial animals that were not up to par. Everything that was happening in this step made it harder and harder and harder for people to come and pray. The temple was supposed, what does Jesus say? My house is supposed to be a house of prayer. You've turned it into a den of thieves. So what was supposed to have been a way for people to come and commune with God, a way that was supposed to come and allow people to have access to God, became almost a barrier where people were unable to come and worship and pray as they would. And that's why Jesus does this. That's why he does it, because all these things that happened that kept people from being able to come to God, being able to come to the temple, being able to come and worship. Everything was a barrier for the people. So Jesus cleanses it. And so he flips over the money changers, flips over the money. Then he takes a whip. And we have this notion of Indiana Jones with this bull whip. That's not what's happening. Jesus took the whip he made and he basically was whipping the animals out of the temple. They were fleeing. And so the people were behind them going to get their inventory. It had gone out the front door. So Jesus cleansed the temple in this and made it to where people could come and pray. Come and pray. So I think the question for us to ponder is this. I think it's twofold. One is for us as prayers. One of those is for us as we seek to call people to pray. What am I doing? What in my life? Where am I creating barriers for people to come and pray? Am I making sure that people feel invited? People feel welcome, particularly those that may not feel welcome in church, that may not feel like they can come. Am I doing all that I can do to extend the invitation and the welcome to folks who need to know God, who need to have the chance to pray and to seek God's face? So where am I as a leader? Where am I as a Christian? Where am I creating barriers to people praying? Where am I making access more difficult? I need to allow the Spirit the chance to search me and convict me of these places so that I can avoid them and I can get rid of them, making it easier for folks to pray. And then, as somebody who seeks to pray, what are the barriers in my life? What are the things in my life that are keeping me from praying? And are these barriers the result of other people, or am I placing barriers there myself? Am I allowing things to get in the way to keep me from praying? The thing that drove Jesus to flip the tables were the barriers that were placed in front of people to pray. So as we begin this Holy Week, let's look for the barriers that we may be creating. And as we seek to pray, let's let's make sure we're looking at what those barriers are in our life and how to avoid them and how to feel like we know how to know that we have a place at the table and a place of welcome. So this is Holy Week. This is Holy Monday. So we're going to walk together through this. I hope you have a great Monday. Be prayerful this week. Seek God's face. Live in His peace. And I look forward to walking with you through Holy Week. Have a great day.